Knife crime as a whole in London is just increasing like so vastly, and the problem itself is just become so normalised that people don't even see it as a problem anymore. It's just natural now, and that in itself is the problem.
I know lots of people that have been affected by it and families that have been affected by it, and it's just really sad thinking about it.
I don't feel safe when I commute or when I go to different places. I feel people may pose a major risk to me and to my safety.
It makes me feel really upset just thinking about it, because my sister, her friend was stabbed to death even though she wasn't involved in any knife crime. She was just like, she was mistaken for someone else.
Kids join gangs simply so they can get an income coming in, so they can protect their families and support them. So maybe their parents aren't getting enough work done, they ain't getting money, they're in debt. And so for youth, they see it as their responsibility to look after their family, and for many, this is the only way they can do it.
People my age don't have faith in a future. They don't think that there's going to be anywhere for them to get to. And I really do think this links to the knife crime that we're seeing at the moment. Because if someone genuinely believes they have a future to succeed in, they're not going to go out and stab someone. And unless we realise that people my age are so disenfranchised from society, knife crime's not going to stop.
For me personally, I believe there's a direct link between child poverty, lack of opportunity and knife crime.
I think that more investment should be put into young people to stop knife crime from happening, because there's just not enough investment in young people at the moment.
You've heard what I think, so what are you going to do about it?
There's a general lack of government funding into schools at the moment, but that's going to be hitting students from lower income backgrounds with educational needs so much more naturally. My
personal experience of this is how poorer kids that come from poorer backgrounds are just left out on school trips and activities that other schools' children may be allowed to go on because their dads have got deeper pockets than their dads.
At my school, the cost of trips is so expensive, and grants such as the pupil premium just doesn't cover it. And that means that students on the pupil premium just don't have the same access as better off students. And that's a lack of opportunity.
The main issue children from poorer families face at school is the ability to deliver the full potential because they aren't given enough support.
During the workshops we were speaking, and one person actually talks about how at his school the sandwich sizes for those on lower income backgrounds are far smaller than the ones for other students. And I think if that doesn't symbolise the disparities that poorer students face, I don't know what does.
When you're left out of activities, it just makes you feel like you're not equal with the other school children, like with your peer mates, and that shouldn't be the case, because you should all be equal, and this is really downgrading and can have a massive impact on your life and your school life.
The government should give schools more money so children like me can get better opportunities.
And I think unless we start to invest more in education as a whole, these disparities are going to continue.
You've heard what I think, now what are you going to do about it?
The problems with working in London are the rents are really high, the cost of living in London is high, and the childcare is really high. So by the time you've paid everything out, you're really left struggling at the end of the month. So it doesn't always work. Even with the help that the government give you, it's just not enough.
My experience in poverty is just how I have to watch it affect my mum. My mum has bills to pay and the government don't help her. They give her the bare minimum and that's just not enough to cope. And when the government makes a mistake, they expect you to pay for their mistakes.
Well, the benefit system doesn't always work, because when I started work, I made a claim for housing benefit and it was accepted. I sent in my contract of work, I sent in my pay slips, I did everything right and everything was going fine. And then I received a letter months later saying that they had miscalculated and that I was now in thousands of pounds worth of debt. And I'm the one that's having to pay that back every week out of my money.
When I was younger, my mum used to have to wake up at 4 a.m. just to be able to go to her job, work long hours so she could afford food and clothes.
When my grandma fell ill with Alzheimer's, my parents realised that it would be a cheaper alternative to putting my grandma into social care would actually be for my dad to quit his job in the public sector and look after her.
I think the benefit system needs to be improved by taking into account the wages that people are really earning in London and how much it costs to have childcare in London, or what commuting really costs, because the two don't balance out.
You've heard what I think, so what are you going to do about it?
The housing situation in London is not good. I mean, they say they're building affordable housing, but who's it affordable for? Because it isn't affordable for the average working person, only for high earners. Both my grown-up sons work and cannot afford to live in London. They're still living at home with me.
There's not enough social housing in London for people that are on low to middle incomes, and this is causing a great level of difficulty for people.
There are many people I know that are being pushed out of London and can't afford to pay their rent anymore, and because of this their livelihoods are being destroyed. They're having to leave their current jobs, they're being separated from friends and family.
The housing situation can be improved by making real affordable housing that local people doing local jobs can afford to live.
The government needs to invest into more social housing. They need to invest into more acceptable housing, because I have friends who live in council estates with damping. The conditions are awful, and people in one of the richest countries in the world should not be allowed to live in conditions such as those.
Some of the problems me and my family find in social housing is the stigma surrounding us living in one of the most deprived areas of London. I think a lot of people discriminate and give false assumptions that we don't want to work hard, we don't want to live well, we don't strive for our education. I think that's a major issue for us, because it's not fair. It doesn't represent who we are or what sort of people we aim and strive to be in life.
You've heard what I think, so what are you going to do about it?
I got involved in this project simply just to create awareness of the issues that low-income families and poorer children and the youth of society have to go through on a daily basis.
I know in the current political climate it's important that the media begin to represent the voices of ordinary people, people that are really suffering at the hands of our government. Unless the media begin to represent voices like mine, the government are going to be allowed to continue to ignore issues affecting everyday people, and that is not okay.
Working in a hospital, I can see the effects of child poverty every day. I see children coming in malnourished, anxious and depressed for their future life.
Unless the government invest in young people and people in my generation, the cycle of poverty is just going to continue to take place, and I'm sure we all agree that poverty needs to end.
It's important to me that my voice is heard, because simply there's only so much you can stand and watch before you have to speak out.
Change needs to happen. The politicians need to understand just how difficult it is living in inner London, the difficulties that we face, the cost that it costs to live in London, and the housing. Something has to change. It can't go on like this.
I got involved in this project so my voice can be heard and so that government understands my viewpoint and other people's viewpoints.
You've heard what I think. Now, what are you going to do about it?